Well, hello, 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 and welcome to Soul Tech with Cynthia, formerly known as Soul Tech with Shaman Isis, formerly known as Glow Up with Shaman Isis. It's been a journey this last year, but it all ties together beautifully now. I'm so excited you guys are joining me today. I have a fabulous guest, Miss Alura Hallowell, spiritual teacher from Australia, who has such a wonderful book and a whole wonderful platform and process for helping your clients glow up. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Cynthia. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, I'm on a journey of teaching and sharing and offering a consciousness that has been pretty much downloaded through me and via my radical awakening. And I'm here just to really support humanity to release and liberate them from any of the wounding, any of the pain, and any of the fear that people are living under.
I love that. And we need that so much. We
Mm.
before we got started with the taping, we were talking about how the planet, I mean, the planet's been going, it's been under an awakening globally since the closures, really. But in this last year, I mean, I know you feel this in your energetic field and just in every cell of your body that we are undergoing a real leveling up of consciousness across the planet.
Mm.
Do you agree? Thoughts on that?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. My awakening happened in 2018 when everything shut down. So I was initiated very rapidly into, I mean, my memories were of Atlantis, of the repetition of Atlantis, which for me was one of the biggest kind of fracture zones of when humanity got shut down and we kind of interfaced with this energy that was not pure and organically our own, and that fracture created a lot of destruction and chaos. And I had a lot of memories of that when I awoke in 2018, and I could see the fractal that was repeating around me. And from there, I began to realize that we're going through a version of a purge in humanity.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that we're here to do right now is to anchor into our own divine consciousness and energetics. So, as I've gone along the path, I've really seen as things get more chaotic outside of us, the duality becomes for us to find such strong nervous system grounding within us and to not feed that chaos, that fear, and that energetic design that's trying to pull us out of ourselves. So I'm just so committed to coming more deeply into the relationship to our own consciousness
Hmm.
to really not to turn a blind eye, but to create a reality from within us that we're being pressured to look with outside of us and to engage in that. And I'm like, no, we need to go further within, to go to become more expanded, to truly remember ourselves as the sovereign creators we are. And from that, I'm witnessing a shift in timeline within myself and within the people I work with because we're building new realities from the inside
Hmm.
out. So that's what I'm really focusing on. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And we need it so much right now. I talk a lot about the traumatic change dramatic, you could say that both ways. Traumatic
Traumatic.
change. And it is for a lot of people. A lot of the veils have
Mm.
been lifted. A lot of the truths about the world. I mean, the interesting thing is, it's like nothing. It's not that anything changed. Only your understanding and perception of it changed. So people are suddenly afraid. Where it's like, but you weren't afraid a year ago because you didn't really know the truth. So find a way back to that ability to just see things for what they are. A lot of the veils have
Yeah.
dropped this last year in particular. I remember 4 years ago I had done a podcast where I was talking about, particularly here in America, the collapse of the American dream and a lot of these
Mm.
serious social issues that we were dealing with, and people call them conspiracy theories. And I'm
Mm.
even talked about, I was like, this closure thing and the whole like trying to sell you shots that are called something that they can't actually technically be because they don't actually
Mm.
qualify as that word, but we're using it anyway because it makes it sound better. This is craziness. And people are like, you sound like a crazy person. And all those things have come true. Like all of them have turned out to be
Mm.
true. How do you navigate that? Like having, because I will say, in all honesty, I'm really great at climbing that scale and getting into my meditative energy or getting a good workout in or drinking my water. But something comes on that is deeply concerning for me, and I do struggle not to like unleash on it. Not out of fear for me
Yeah.
personally, but out of frustration.
No, I think it's a huge question and a valid one because what I'm very, very intensely focused on is our energetic relationship to reality. And
Hmm.
our energetic relationship to reality means that a lot of the time we're leaving our energetic center to involve ourselves in external things that cause our nervous system to increase into a state of survival and activation and reactivity and fear and it's an overwhelm really. And then that nervous system response we then have is creating a version of reality, personal reality around us. So we kind of get pulled out into that fear matrix, I suppose, that consciousness of separation, of lack, of overwhelm, and then our whole being follows that. And I see the mirroring that then happens that we begin to get destabilized, and then we
Hmm.
then we are creating from a destabilized pattern. So I would say it's deeper than the activities we do, but it's more of an energetic reclamation back to ourselves. And that's one of the core practices that I really use. And I know people go, oh, energy is really woo woo. And like, we don't really know what energy is. It's like energy for me is the foundation. Energy and
Yeah.
consciousness is the foundation of the whole of reality, whether you want to kind of look at that part or not. So why not go to the root of where things are
Hmm.
constructed from, as opposed to going like on that higher level? So, a practice that I use all the time with the people that work with me is the reclamation of energy, which is literally pulling your energy and consciousness back into your own body
Yeah.
and creating a vessel of safety whereby your energy is back with you. That means you're not doing anything, nothing's happening, you're not going anywhere, you're not being anyone, you're literally just completing yourself energetically. And
Hmm.
from that energetic completion and inner safety, which is a massive piece that people are still working on, that internal inner safety, life just begins to feel a bit different. And you're not engaged in things that aren't in your wheelhouse. You know, for
Hmm.
some of us, we can engage in things that we actually have direct influence over. Like, I know you have a beautiful foundation and you're actually putting your energy into something that you can tangibly change. For a lot of us, it's just our energies leaking into the news, into like the
Yeah.
fear paradigms, into all the things. And there's nothing we can actually realistically do except reclaim our energy and build a new reality from the inside out.
Yes, that and I think, one of my big concerns right now is that the attention economy has and also the economic situation, particularly here in America, like the prices of everything have gone up like a 50, 100%. Like it's craziness. Like people can't even move out and have their own home or apartment. And they're on their phones, and the worries that they have that they express externally get picked up by the phone, and of course what they engage with, and the next thing they're doom scrolling, people reinforcing the most terrifying messages. So if you guys, guys, particularly if you happen to have PTSD or CPTSD, or you have a sensitive nervous system, any or all of the above, it's really helpful to teach if you must be on social media, and I'm as guilty as the next person, teach your algorithm to
Mm,
show you things that will be helpful to your presence of mind and your command of your experience and your command of your perception versus just allowing what's coming up to decide for you what you're going to
yeah.
be affected by. So definitely do that. That means that, don't look at it, don't share it, don't like it. And don't watch it on repeat, or you're going to end up getting yourself caught on an algorithm. Which brings me to something I find
Mm,
interesting, since you and I both talked about before we started about consciousness. So you may have gone through the same thing. In my own experience, when I first woke up, aside from having to reach autistic burnout before I realized what was going on, it was after that, and I took a few months just to just to settle a little bit, but then I really started working on myself, and I came across Hawkins Scale of Consciousness, and
mm,
I thought I had done so much work for like it already been like a year starting. I think it was started back in around the same time as you, and it had been like a year. I mean, it was probably more like a year and a half, 2 years, because the closures have thrown the timeline off in my head. But the point is I had done a lot of work on myself, and then I looked at that list. Um, I looked at the list at Hawkins Scale, and I was like, and then I was trying to find where I was at, and then I got to the bottom, and I was way down at the bottom, and it was like, it was because if you guys aren't familiar, Hawkins Scale of Consciousness was produced by I think it was Dr. Richard Hawkins. I could be
Mm,
David
it's
Hawkins.
Richard.
It's
Yeah,
Richard. Okay.
I
And
think it's Richard.
yeah, it's either David or Richard, you guys. But
David or
anyway,
Richard, yeah.
he produced this scale, and on the scale, it's like, what's your emotional experience, and how that emotional experience will express itself, and what kind of vibration or frequency ranking that receives, and
Mm,
and then it really helps you to understand with a couple of other columns what the origin of your lived experience in that. And so when I looked at it, I did not understand until that moment when I hadn't seen his scale in 20 years or something like that. And I saw it, and I was at the very bottom where guilt and shame
mm,
reside, because I had lived my whole adult life ashamed of my experiences, and guilty for a lot of things I didn't actually do to myself that were done to me, but because I was steeped in that shame. I saw everything that happened to me as somehow a reflection of me, who I was as a human being. And so I would hide everything. Like, no one knew anything about me. They knew I had an agency, they knew I worked in PR, and then I was well known in that industry, but no one knew anything about me personally. Anyway, when
mhm.
I woke up, that was deep into the beginning of my journey. I realized that my consciousness was not nearly as slam dunk polished as I wanted it to be, and that it was going to require practice, which is something I don't think we talk enough about in the spiritual community. We don't talk
Mm,
about the practice aspect. We talk about what needs to be
yes,
done, and how you're supposed to be
yes.
acting, and how you should be coming across, and what your frequency of vibration should be. But it's like we don't talk about the other, like, how do we actually get there, and what does that look like? So please, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Did you have something similar in your awakening?
Yeah, no, I did in some ways. I had a strange initiation into consciousness, which was super powerful for me, which I left my body very abruptly, very spontaneously on a meditation on a beach and ended up in consciousness for about an hour and a half. And
Mhm.
as I came back from consciousness and from that experience and opened my eyes, I could only see energy, and I could kind of see the design pattern of reality. So that for me kind of initiated me into a source consciousness,
Mhm.
which for me wasn't in separation in layers of like different experiences. It was either sort of being in a consciousness or not feeling connected to that consciousness. So it was either a connection experience or a separation experience. And from there, I went on to look at, yeah, these parts like the shame and blame and guilt, and how they really protect us from going to the deeper aspects of us.
Mhm.
And what they really showed me was the shame, blame, and guilt was always protecting our pain, our really deep
Mhm.
core pain, our very, very feared pain, the pain that we don't really want to touch because it feels like we're going to die if we go there. So when I found that core of the pain as being really, really instrumental in our liberation, I was like, actually, that's where we need to go to free ourselves below the shame, blame, and guilt into the pain that we hold around those experiences. Because we end up becoming our own perpetrators. When the perpetrators left, we actually perpetrate ourselves with the shame, blame, and guilt. So, how do we release the core of that experience via going into that pain, as opposed to feeding that top level response of trying to protect that pain with our shame, blame, and guilt? So, that experience for me was really, really critical. And I think you're right in saying we need process. And that's why I created the consciousness method, which is a 12 process experience of getting to know your consciousness and getting to connect to your own consciousness. And that consciousness is uniquely yours, it's your conscious expression of yourself. And linking it back to the pain, what I find is when we're holding unprocessed pain, we've blocked consciousness.
Mhm.
So, say like when you're 4 or 5 and something really traumatic happens and it's really painful and it gets blocked in your system because you haven't processed that fully, and it just becomes part of the paradigm of how you interpret yourself in the world. That pain holds a consciousness that got trapped at 4. And when that gets trapped at 4, your whole being gets trapped at 4 on some level. So that for me was like, oh, wow, if we release the pain, we release consciousness in our bodies. And that created a whole new paradigm of understanding for me about what we need to do to shift our consciousness within our own bodies. Yeah.
Um, Sorry about that. Uh, my phone kept, I'm always honest with my audience. My phone kept dinging and I was like, would you stop? You're supposed to be off. It's not even supposed to be making noise. So I had to tell
Okay.
somebody that I was in the midst of a fabulous interview and now was not a good time. Uh, I'll probably cut that out of the interview. Anyway,
No.
so did you, when you first woke up and for you yourself and you had this incredible experience,
Mm.
did you just know at that time that you were going to want to work with people to help them raise their consciousness, or was it just a multi-years process of?
It was 3 years of integrating that experience. It took me 3 years to come back to Earth and to realize what everything was showing me and who I am and why I'm here. And from there, after those 3 years, it became evident that I had to start sharing with other people. So it's been a
Mhm.
mission, and there hasn't been really any break in the past 7 years in that journey. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
do all of this with 3 children and a book on top of
And a
everything
book.
else.
Yeah. And a
Tell me about
beautiful
the book.
book.
I'm dying of curiosity.
Yeah, it's called Unloved, Unworthy, Unknown, and it's about the 3 core patterns of how our energy leaves us. So we leave ourselves to try to create relationships, and we self abandon, and we leave ourselves to try and prove our value and our worth, and we end up feeling very much not enough. And we leave ourselves trying to prove that we can be heard and seen and understood and expressed. And then we end up feeling like we're disconnected from our own voice and our own truth. So this is a book that really outlines the consciousness method and the pathway back to
Mhm.
ourselves via these experiences that are universal. I think everyone listening can say, I've actually got one of those things happening in my life where I feel disconnected from myself, either in the way that I feel loved, in the way that I feel enough, or the way that I feel heard, understood, or safe. Or knowing enough. So those 3 ways was something that I was like, wow, this is quite universal. And I think for many people, understanding that the core wounds of those experiences are not about being broken or being a failure or not having healed enough. They're actually core design patterns that we have that run through us and create a reality around us. And that's what led me to really wanting to understand how we as humans are creating our realities, and how we create it unconsciously through wounding, or we create it consciously through our connected consciousness.
I love that.
Mm.
Your work is really interesting in the timing, because as we were talking about earlier, there's been such an unveiling of so many systems and so much corruption and a lot of things. We kind of lollygagged for a couple decades there. We were sort of slightly oblivious to some of the worst aspects, but aware of other things. But it was like it can't touch me. And now, of course, chaos has touched everybody on the planet, which I do. I mean, obviously, I think the wave of spiritual awakenings that happened were due to the closures and people not only being prodded by a startling, almost PTS inducing world event. But it was the first time the vast majority of people on the planet, that particularly people who lived in urban type areas, had gotten the chance to slow down long enough to actually look at themselves and say, "Oh my God, I'm having to
Mm.
live with myself in my own home. I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything, and I don't like me very much, or I don't like the life that I'm living." And so we've had this massive spike in the number of people who have woken up globally and the conversation. I've never in my lifetime seen more conversation. I've seen a lot of conversation about religion because I grew up in the 70s in the South, where
Yeah.
there's a church on every street corner. But I've never heard this much conversation around spirituality as I have in the last few years, and that gives me a lot of hope. Um,
Mm.
and it's my personal belief that that this is the timing of this is spiritual. All of what's happening, not just in terms of the processes that people are going through, but I mean in talks about almost like spiritual warfare. Because and this is what part of what the book is about, and the work that I do is that
Mm,
we need humanity and higher consciousness to navigate the age of AI in a way where we make it out alive in the end. Because these are transformative
mm,
times, and the world is going to undergo, and it already has undergo more change in the next couple of years than we have in the last 30 or 40 years. And that's a lot for a lot of people, particularly for a planet that has a global mental health crisis, which is in part caused by our access to information and knowing too
mm.
much. And so I wondered what your thoughts were on kind of the timeline of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more that the pressure on humanity is growing and that there is it's like another kind of source of intelligence is developing outside of us. But at the same time, I take that as a mirror to further practice the development of the connection and intelligence and divine knowing within us. Because I think what's happened is we've become a little bit confused and disconnected from the incredible human technology that we have within us, that is just exceptionally powerful and superior to anything that is around us, as we are the creators of this experience through the template of us. We are expressing consciousness, we're expressing timelines, we're expressing a holographic design pattern from my mind through us. So instead of fearing anything that is around us, I just use it all as a divine mirror. That anything that is happening around us is an invitation to deepen the part of us within us that may be underdeveloped and create fear. So in the AI experience for myself and sort of the community, my community, we're working at developing a direct link to our own consciousness that is really informative. Like that link to consciousness, it offers you a guidance system that is really far superior to anything you could get outside of you. It offers you an intuition. It offers you an emotional like compass to allow you to process what's being unprocessed. It allows you to create timelines from a new vision that's coming through you directly. And that unique relationship, I think, lessens the fear. I see people kind of release in themselves and go, actually, I'm the one that gets to determine how this all looks and how this is all going to work out for me. So I'm very much around that empowerment of our being as a conduit of a greater consciousness that's superior in some ways to all of the external stuff.
Yeah, I think that's hard. It's one. I love that you shared that, because one of the
Mm,
things that I tell people all the time, I've begun telling them recently because I started to see how scared people are, is that the one thing that artificial intelligence can't do is it can't be human. It can do so many wonderful things, and it's only generally as good as your intelligence and actually using it, instead of you depending on it to be the intelligent thing. It needs to be the other way around. But when you think of generative AI, and I love generative AI, I'm an artist, so of course when it first came out a few years ago, I was playing with it, 3 or 4 years ago, and have stayed consistent with learning it. But I noticed that when I see generative art, it's not memorable. It may be beautiful, stunning, striking, wild, like whatever it is. I cannot remember. I couldn't. I could usually draw something out to remember. I can't. I literally can't remember
yeah.
it because it's forgettable. And I believe the reason it's forgettable is because it does not have the human creator, the creator energy that we get from our source energy, and that we channel. I always say that we're the fingers of conscious, we're the hands of consciousness, we're the hands of the
Yeah.
creator. The creator created us, and we do this sort of smaller work but very powerful work. And I think that's what it is. And so I said, find a way to learn about AI, find ways to utilize it in your work, but be sure you understand that the work will only be as good as you being involved in it as a human being. So I think that's actually kind of interesting, and I think it's a healthier way for a lot of people to look at it because it is scary. We
Mm,
will be the planet will be losing a ton of jobs, and it will gain some jobs, but the vast majority of them are going to go away, and that's
yeah.
transformative times for human beings.
Yeah. And that it's interesting, like where AI will step in to take jobs in terms of what what we're going to be asked to develop to to move through that. It's almost like it's kind of there's a field of information where it's going to be really good at the technical kind of thing, but then there's another field of information that I think we're rising to as humans that's going to be even more critical for us in humanity. It's going to have a
Hmm.
whole nother range of jobs and opportunities and experiences that we probably are just being initiated into.
Hmm.
So I always see that there's never lack. There's always potential and possibility in those places, but we need to get curious and imaginative. And I think you're speaking to that when it's not our imagination or it's not our energetics that's involved, but it's kind of outsourced, there's a gap in that, and we can't connect with that in the same way. Our humanity can't connect with that in the same way as if it was actually human generated. So I think there's going to be a craving for human generated experiences that is going to, I know for myself, I'm, just beginning to go more and more in person, like more workshops, more retreats, more,
Yeah.
experiences where people can just be in the presence of another nervous system, not just isolated, with their computer and their phone.
The Soul Tech Foundation recently hosted an event in Boca, and one of the things I talked about with the audience was that to bring themselves present and to become comfortable in their seat, and then to understand that while we're dealing with disruption of artificial intelligence, because the event was themed to that,
Mm,
and I explained that to them about um, the fact that the new times will demand of us that we create community and that we come together and that we share ideas and that we understand that AI it cannot duplicate the human
mm,
energy and I really
yeah,
believe that like one of the main things the Soul Tech Foundation is for is to create community driven events across the country, because it's my belief that that the further we get into the technology, the larger of an issue we're going to have with mental health. Hopefully that's just temporary while everyone's getting used to it because the numbers are really
yeah,
scary. And I'm not trying to scare or be negative with people. I'm just a very realistic person. But I believe it's those in-person events that are going to be the real winner in creating a cohesive society that still continues to love and support each other and still understands what community love is like, because we already have an isolation problem because you can do everything from your phone, especially since so many people work from home now. It's like people, a
mm,
lot of people I know just they're like, oh, I'm used to being at home, I don't want to leave my house anymore. It's like you need other people, you
yeah,
need other
100%.
people.
You could
uh
not agree more.
uh,
Connection is critical for us to feel safe and loved and yeah, just enough in terms of our human experience. If we don't have the feedback of other humans, then we're going to be really not in a good place mentally. I think it's a good reminder for anyone listening. It's like, have you connected with anyone and have you looked in their eyes and actually just being present to another person in your life? I think what happens though, I witness the isolation also is a little bit coded in some unprocessed wounding. It's like, oh, I don't want to see my family because I'm hurt by them, or, I can't find anyone on the internet because I'm dating, and, everyone on online dating is X, Y, Z, and, or whatever the story is, or, I'm split from my family, or I'm isolated, or whatever it is. But I think there's some piece in that, and I do a lot of unification work with people unifying themselves around those fractured relationships and then stretching the nervous system to reconnect with the people in their lives that are important to them. And I think there's another part to that that needs to be also supported and focused on the skill of being able to understand your part in something and their part in it, and finding where you can really move to that pain and release some of that pain that's holding you in a separation from those people. So yeah, I think it's a journey, and also developing inner boundaries is a big piece of the work as well, to be able to not feel like you're in a relationship with someone you don't feel safe with. So it's
Oh,
multifaceted.
isn't that the truth? I completely agree with you in the terms of owning your part in things. So one of the healing workshops that I've done over the years involves, it's actually in my first book, it involves a worksheet
Mm.
where the person, this is part of the healing your history, so that you can understand so that you can release the past, but also understand your part in the past and see the sheet is really to help people just sort of lay out what going all the way back as far as they can to the very beginning and coming all the way through to current life, any situation that caused them some level of trauma, and that can include really good things. So, like when being the
Mm.
valedictorian of your school is a wonderful thing, but it sets these people up for the kind of being hard on themselves in the future to be number one at everything. That's actually really a torture for a lot of people. So the point is I agree with you. And in that sheet, one of the main things I could talk to people about is in some of those things that have happened in your life, that you will not have any responsibility. There are things that happen to us that we
Mm.
can't, but in many of those situations, you'll not only see where you're responsible, but when you look at a sheet like that where it's all listed out, or you've been keeping your journal, you begin to start seeing patterns that are
Yeah.
really, excuse me, patterns that are really the thread that you need to pull for your own healing. And when I sat down and looked at, like, I was like, "Oh my God, I thought I was nothing like my family, and I've done everything the same." It may have looked prettier on the
I
surface,
know.
but it was the same stuff.
That's the
Oh,
shock, isn't it? When you see you witness that, the
yeah.
repetition of the same pattern just wrapped up a different way. Yeah. And
What's your
that's the thing. Like, yeah,
oh,
sorry.
oh, no, I was going to ask you, what is your favorite, like, consciousness raising I'll say trick for the sake of time.
Yeah. Going into the pain. Paradoxical, I
Wow.
know.
Brave
Everyone,
woman.
yeah. No, pain is the portal of releasing stored consciousness. And I have people coming to me going, "Hey, Allura, like, I want to find the next pain piece because I want to liberate more of my energy through that part." Pain for me is not suffering, it's not a story, it's more the visceral engagement with how the body is storing that experience
Hmm.
and how the consciousness stores it. And once you kind of, people are understanding that, the felt sense of being able to go, oh, that thing has been trapping me in a paradigm of fear my whole life
Yeah.
because I fear my own pain. I don't want to have that happen again because I don't want to feel that pain again. Well, if you go to the threshold of the pain you don't want to feel and you feel that pain, then you have nothing to fear. You're fully liberated from that. So then that means that you expand, consciousness expands. It's not just in one track of one loop of one experience. And people come to me that have been looping through the same pattern of reality over and over and over again their whole existence, and they've done so much deep healing work, but they can't get that pattern to shift. And going there,
Yeah.
it feels like you're going to die. Like
Oh, it
it's like a
does.
death of the
It
identity.
is. Yeah. And
Um,
it is. You're
it
letting
is.
go of a disrupted version of yourself that stopped growing. Like, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
totally blank on the arrested development. Like, there's an arrested development version of you that you're letting go of
Yeah.
so that you can actually step into your full self. I definitely went through that. The freedom, I think the first 2 years of my awakening, I really didn't do what I would say a whole lot, was because I was so happy to no
Oh,
longer be hiding and
mm,
masked that I just floated for like 2 years. Really. It
amazing.
can be
I purged for 2 years.
oh yeah,
The
trust me,
density in
I
my
did that
body was
too.
just like, oh my God, I was walking in nature, crying every day, getting
Oh.
all the density out of my body. It was, yeah. So I'm happy you were floating.
Oh well,
So,
trust me, that was sort of, I think that was just the demasking part. Then I had to actually
yes.
do the work in the early 2020s, and it's been an interesting. I'm still like, and one of the things I get really frustrated with spiritual teachers and gurus, particularly the number of male gurus that we have that have actually done some pretty awful things that don't seem to ever get reported. When you say, "Can I have the top spiritual leaders?" Well, not only are they all men, but a lot of them have done some pretty sorry, that's off topic, but it's on my
No,
mind with recent
I'm
events.
with you. I
Recent
know. I
events.
get it.
But people, I don't want to see another spiritual teacher or guru that like there's this one wonderful guy. He's a Tibet. I want to say he's a Tibetan monk. And an incredible guy that I see on. He did a documentary with the Mulligan brothers that I see quoted a lot on
Mm,
social media. Very calm, he never cracks a smile. And while his energy is always like this, I just don't think that's relatable for the vast majority of people
dead inside. Yeah.
that need help. I
And
think
if
it's
anyone
more
tells
helpful.
you,
Yeah.
sorry, there's an end point in this journey that you're going to heal, run.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
never heal. We are always here for evolution. For me, the difference is that you can learn the evolutionary practice that you can keep liberating yourself so you don't have to get trapped in a healing cycle. But we're not here to heal. We're already whole. We're just liberating ourselves. So
Mm,
I'm really conscious that there's a lot of people that will tell you, like, well, I'm going to heal, like, we're going to heal. And I just call BS on that because it's just not the way the reality is designed. We're here for evolution and to return and to remember ourselves, but we're not here to do something that's paradoxical to who we are. Like we're already
mm,
that. We just need to, find that and remember that and
yeah.
liberate ourselves into that. So there's a lot of teachers that are like, yeah, just be present. Just like drop everything and be present. I'm like, when you're holding the density of those experiences, you're going to be distracted. You're going to feel like you can't settle into yourself. So when
Mhm.
there's this pressure to be this Eastern monastic, like I'm just going to settle and be present, I feel like there's a bypass and a suppression that no, there's a truth there that you need to feel
Yeah.
prior to be able to being present. And I have people that say, I am now in spontaneous presence. This whole bullshit, excuse me, that I went for that was like, I need to be present. It was like, no, that was never the path. It was the clarification and the release of the density that allows you to return to your natural state of presence. And that's for me, I'm obviously very passionate about that. But I have a lot of people come to me that have been trapped in these healing loops for
Yeah.
like decades.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. Well, I'm anti, and I know this is terrible. A lot of people get mad at me when I say this, but I'm very anti-therapy because
mm,
I have not met a single person who has not spent a small fortune being in. I'm like, you've been seeing the same therapist for 7 years. Don't you think there's something
it's
wrong
just
with
so,
that?
yeah, for many, it's
You're an
self-reinforcing.
ATM machine. That's what you are. You're an ATM machine that they have no incentive to cure. And they can't cure you
No.
anyway, which is part of the problem. But I'm also anti-Western medicine. I had one last question for you before we go. You had mentioned about your awakening and going back to the memories. So mine started. I remember before I came back this time. And I've remembered it
Mm.
my whole time. I remember being in a crib thinking about that conversation, and then later on going, I really did choose this life. Like, what was I thinking? And they asked me, "Are you sure you want this life?" Because I grew up in a orphanage and in a foster care
Mm.
in the South in the 70s. This is a different time to be alive for sure. And several times I was like, "Why?" And I have memories of Egypt, and so I'm curious to know about your experience with that kind of process.
Yeah, the remembrance of coming back and I think yeah, through the multidimensional experiences that got shown to me after I kind of had an NDE, a near death experience. So I died and came back to my body. I get it. Like we're incarnating in a way, our energy and consciousness is coming through over and over again. And what I see across space and time are the same patterns. We're fractalizing the same patterns, and we're here this lifetime to shift those patterns. And shifting the patterns now shifts all lifetimes through all time and space. And that's the power we have. And I know that viscerally, and I've seen it, and I can see the design of it. That when you shift a core pattern this lifetime, it's shifting you across space and time. So, where really our consciousness has so much potential right now in this life to do such great evolutionary work, and people say, oh, I want to evacuate this planet. I don't want to come back. I want to like, you know, graduate and get out of here. I'm like, no, that's not what we're here to do. This is the only place where we are. We're here to make it like heaven on earth. We're here
Mhm.
to actually release that patterning and that density so that we can live as the free sovereign beings we're here to be. And that's my belief, that we keep coming here to do that. And I can feel in my body that it's possible, that we're like going towards a place where that's possible. And the moving our attention from the density, from the fear, from that vortex that pulls us, and putting it right here and expanding from here is gonna change the world.
Oh, I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the world is changing, and
Yeah.
there are so many wonderful people like yourself all around the
Yeah, like
planet
you.
who are helping, who've been through it, and who are helping other people in whatever that capacity is. You as a
Mm,
spiritual teacher and author, to help lead people towards a beautiful future in the age of AI. I
mm,
really believe that that's possible. And, my hope is that universal income comes through as it's going to need to be, because wow, talk about, can you imagine if a lot of people actually got the chance to create,
yeah.
let the computers do the dishes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's the way
Let's
to
use
see the age
that,
of
right?
AI, right? I know.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Allura, for coming on the
Mm,
show. You're divine, divine
thank
energy.
you.
Our audience is going to absolutely love you. If they would like to learn more about you, your book, your work, where would they go?
Unloved, Unworthy, Unknown. You'll be able to find that online, is the book. The Consciousness Method is the podcast where you get to hear other people that have done the work. And Alura Hallowell is the website. And I would be welcoming anybody that's interested in doing some of this work with open arms, because it's so important. So, yeah, thank you so much for having me, Cynthia. You are a complete light, and just your presence and the consciousness you're bringing for everyone is just a gift. So, thank you for having me.
Oh, no, thank you. Well, if you are not subscribed to Soul Tech with Cynthia, please do. I mean, it's intelligent listening with fabulous guests, and we lift you up. We also help you think through some of the tougher issues that are going on in the world. Um, if you want to learn more about my work and my books, please visit cynthialelliott.com. That is my personal author speaker website. And of course, you can check out the work that I do through my foundation, my nonprofit, the Soul Tech Foundation, where we are helping underserved communities thrive in the age of AI through skills and community. So go check it out, and be sure and follow and subscribe to the show, and share it with your friends and family so they can get inspired spiritually. Sending you all love and wishing you a beautiful month. And we'll be back more with another episode soon enough. Thank you again, Allura.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.